All right, guys, we're back again for another podcast. This is JAG Insider. Today we are blessed because I've got not only one of my trade partners, but one of my really close friends that I know if I needed something in the world, I could call Andy Wood. But I'm going to let Andy Wood tell you who Andy Wood is. Yes, he's supposed to just be this insurance person that helps my homeowners do all different kinds of things, but that's slighting Andy Wood so much. And I will tell you, we met and decided to become business partners because we were two dads out watching our kids perform and play baseball. And I'm going to try not to tune up every now and then because I've got a child who's lost some vision, and Andy's son and my son played together and loved having those two great young men around each other. But at the same time, we're experiencing a new part of life, trying to figure that part out. But Andy, I am so excited because our clients don't always get to know who our trade partners are. But this time, I want you to take the time today to unpack this complicated guy sitting next to me that all I hear about is kindness in every direction. And what makes you be able to be like that?
Yep.
Always positive, always up.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the kind words. So I would say just when you stop and you think about what do you really enjoy doing, I've always been a helper. I started off in life, I was going to be a school teacher, and then just life happened and I didn't end up being in that profession. And so from an early age, I've always just loved helping people. And so that doesn't matter whether I'm in a business context or whether it's my neighbor or whether it's at church or wherever it may be. I get a lot of joy out of helping people. And so that then just lends itself to me when it comes to my professional career. Being in the insurance business, helping is just, it comes very natural to me. And so, when I get to, number one, get to know a client, and then I get to help them solve problems, that's fun to me. So that's really it. And then everything else just comes out of that.
So, but for me, and I mean this, I'm so used to, there are insurance agents out there, there are people in every profession. All I ever hear from them is, well, I want to make this, all I ever hear is money terms out of those people. I don't do that in my business, and I don't hear it from you. It's never about well, I don't want to help that person because they already told me they're going to write their insurance with somebody else. I've never heard you once say something like that. And, so you really are a servant to them. That's how you see yourself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, it's all about the relationship. I keep things very simple, and it's all about, I tell my wife all the time, I feel like I'm just collecting relationships. And, that's both professionally and personally, and then just see where it goes from there. Treat people as they want to be treated and just get to know people, and then everything else takes care of itself. To me, it's kind of like a golf swing. I've always said too, the more simple I can keep things, then the better off I'm going to be. So when I just get to know people and just collect those relationships, then that just, to me, that's a very long-range plan, and it's a very good, solid plan because then everything, like I said, just kind of flows out of that.
Yeah, and it's funny, the last time, I can think of a really real situation where I had a person moving here from California. That person was struggling with a lot of things, and that person is coming from a position of wealth and having a lot of things, and she maybe didn't fit into a box. And so originally it looked one way, and then you took the time to dive in and figure out, how do I get this person more comfortable with what's really the best options for them? And then that person, and all I heard after that was, man, that was a nice guy. I'm so glad you turned me on to him. But in my business, when I don't know something, rather than me spitting out an answer I don't know, I go figure it out, and it looks like that's what you do in yours as well. It's not like an exact science where one size fits all, right?
No, no. It's actually, I tell people a lot of times, it's really kind of like a combination of art and science. And really, I do a lot of asking questions and then listening, because I found if I just listen to those people, not only am I going to be way more effective because I'm going to help them answer the questions that they have, but then I'm going to actually do a better job of getting them where they want to be. And so by asking a lot of questions and listening, we not only accomplish the goal of getting them where they need to be, but we're also keeping them comfortable all throughout the process as well too, answering, objections and questions. And because a lot of times in my business, I deal with people, such a broad spectrum of folks, lawyers and doctors and educators and everything in between. People just don't know what they don't know about insurance. And so a lot of times they don't even know the questions to ask. So that's why I do a lot of asking questions and then listening, and then we combine it all together and we end up eventually getting where they need to be. And along with that comes no pressure. It's just, again, back to treat people like they want to be treated and just take it at their pace.
So like you just mentioned all these wide variety of people you deal with. When you're dealing with people on that wide a spectrum, do you have to become a different person with each one, or do you just become yourself and they gravitate to you?
Yeah, no, I just stay true to who I am. I've also been the guy that has never met a stranger. Both my wife and my son will tell you that. You know that. I don't have any problem talking to anybody, and it's really about finding common ground. But then it's also too, with this person in question, I love just hearing about where they were from and asking them questions about, what's the difference and things like that. So just getting to know them a little bit personally. But yeah, I see it as something exciting as far as getting to talk to all these different people. But don't compromise on who I am. But again, back to where we started, which is just, keep it simple, take it at their pace, and treat them like they want to be treated. So.
Well, and I know both of us are big sports fanatics. And it really doesn't matter what season's going on. We're interested in sports, period, because we're competitive people in how we function, not with other people necessarily, within our own selves. We want to get better. We want to keep improving ourselves, so we like sports. Now, we're both Wolfpackers. We both love NC State.
Amen.
But we got a lot of friends that love every other school. And, I think both of us, we're not so diehard NC State that we're going to kill somebody that's a Carolina person. We've matured enough that when we were in school, maybe, but we've matured enough that we actually watch all those other teams the same way as a fan. I mean, there is no way that we're both not just ACC fans. Forget about which school it is. And even as we bring on new schools like California and USC into the ACC, I'm starting to, keep up with who they're playing and how they score, because how our conference looks is important to me, right? You think the same way?
Absolutely, yeah, no. Diehard NC State from the time I was a little kid. Then I was fortunate enough to go to school there and graduate. But yeah, I've always said too, I'm a diehard Red Sox fan too. So I've always said that, having those other teams, that's what makes sport, right? If I didn't have those other teams to go back and forth with, it wouldn't be quite as fun.
Yeah.
And then, it's any time during the year. Football season's ramping up. The older I get, the more I love sports. I lean into it. And absolutely getting to know about the other teams and whatnot, Stanford and Cal and all these other teams in the ACC. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping the rivalries will stay there. And while we're talking a minute ago, so Stacy, his son, is at NC State right now, right?
Yep, probably at practice right now.
And so tell them about what State. I know we came to talk about you, but tell them what Stacy's doing at State right now.
So he's with the equipment staff. He's been there for 2.5 years now. So he's on staff. He actually works with the defensive backs right now. Love everything about it. There's only so much he can tell me, right? I'm not trying to get insider information, but we talk about practice and things like that. And it's fantastic because watching him grow as a kid into a young man, and his love for sports as well too. And thank goodness, well, he didn't really have a choice. He grew up as an NC State fan too, but getting to go to school over there and be around that, like he loves to be part of a team, right? That's one thing that I think, you know, he really missed as far as when he got into college, as far as when, you know, he was running track and playing ball and all these other things. So now being part of a team again, it's so impactful to him on so many levels, and just his mom and I are so proud of him for doing it. And of course, being an NC State fan, it's awesome because we get to go watch him and see him and do his thing. So.
And trust me, okay, the only reason Stacy is not playing at NC State is he didn't want to, because he, at a very young age, he would be in our dugouts doing pull-ups that stronger than everybody else at those ages, and very athletic, could play any position. Wasn't a pitcher, but could go into a game and mow people down as a pitcher, or might be the kid that hits the ball out that next one. But every sport picked up naturally for him, which is blessed. But his love of sports outweighs the want to play. And like, there's something really unique about people that can be on a team and be as integral a part of the team, but doesn't have to be the player that has to have the headlights on them.
Right.
And that reminds me a lot of you. Even though you're the star at your insurance business, I can tell you, you're the only trade partner we have that also has an email at JAG. And we did that because we feel connected. Like, the truth is, we're not out looking to figure out who should somebody be doing insurance with, because we don't know enough about insurance to give that knowledge. We know you, and we know you're going to go out there and supply that to people when they need it, which is what we're looking for. But, you know, my hope in this JAG Insider series we're doing is to get people to know you outside of all those things. Now, I know what your hobbies are, and some of his hobbies don't sound fun. So, like, give them an idea, having been a turf management guy, right?
Yep.
Like, what's the stuff you like doing?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I love being outside. I love, you know, hiking and doing all those things, playing golf and whatnot. But one of my passions is turf management. Yeah. So I initially went to NC State and got my turf degree from NC State. Was a golf course superintendent for a few years. Love everything about the business, and so I'm that guy. Yes, I'm the guy that mows the yard 3 times a week. I'm the guy that's out there walking around pulling weeds by hand, thinking about, like, okay, when am I going to overseed? What am I going to do? And then subsequently, that's bled over into helping some of my neighbors, which I love doing. So yeah, I mean, outside of sports, you know, turf grass is really, you know, I joke with my wife and some other people. I'm like, you know, turf grass is kind of my first love. But being on the golf course day in, day out just really wasn't kind of what ended up happening, but I love everything about it. And so, you know, like I said, going back into now helping out my neighbors, I love it, because I'm that guy in the neighborhood that people are like, hey, would you come take a look at this? Would you come take a look at that? And I think sometimes they feel like they're burdening me, but I love it.
So was part of that, like, when you made the shift, was part of that the fact that no matter how well you were maintaining the course at that time, there are people playing it every day that they might see they can see the 90% that's perfect, but that 1% over here where there was a divot that didn't get replaced, or things outside of your control, did you feel like those people were like on you sometimes?
For sure. So I'm not necessarily a perfectionist, but when it comes to the golf course business, it was really tough, because it was one of these things where, you know, my last stop was a golf course in the local area, and we had, you know, 100 acres of grass. And so it's hard to be over it every day. And that was one thing that really kind of bothered me, because I want to see it every day with my own eyes. I mean, I had a great staff, a great team. They did a wonderful job. But it was one of these things where I wanted to personally see it every day. So that did make it kind of tough.
And when you're, you know, the other thing people don't think about when you're in that, when you set the cups that morning, or you're installing the cups that morning, if the guy doesn't put it in just right, there are putts that aren't going in because of how the cup was set, right? I mean, that's a part of it. And now that's when you really hear this guy who had 10 bets with 8 other people out on the course. They come in fired up. We need to fire our greenskeeper because I missed a putt on 3 today because he put it in a crazy place, or they raised the edge on that cup. I mean, did that ever happen?
I mean, we would hear some stuff every now and again. I mean, it's like anything in life, right? You're doing your best, but there's going to be a couple of people here and there that always have something to say, which is fine. I have thick skin, but one of the things that I really just loved about that business was the opportunity to be out and about and doing those kinds of things. And you know what? Nobody is tougher. Shout out to all my golf course guys out there and green industry folks. Nobody is tougher on us than ourselves. But yeah, I mean, that's the fun part about the golf course business is that there's always room to improve. Always room to improve.
Well, let me shift topics on you. Okay. I watch your social media pretty regularly, and I've watched it develop over the years and get better and better. But one of the things you constantly do are these gratitude posts where, I want to know first, and we'll talk about those, but I want to know first, does that come from a faith in God? Does that come from an appreciation? Tell me about that side of you. What does Andy Wood look like in terms of his relationship with God? What do you look like in terms of how grateful you are for the things because just like you and just like me, if I got what I deserved in life, I would never be grateful for anything, because I know I'm not perfect, and I know God's got to work with this imperfect instrument. And the fact that wonderful things still happen to me every day, I'm amazed at when I know the things he puts in front of me, just the fact that light came out today, and I get to enjoy this bright picture he's painted for me, and not to be grateful would be insane. But talk to me about those things.
Yeah, so the gratitude post, that's something that I started, I don't even know, it's been a couple of years now. There's a couple of reasons behind it. Number one, in no specific order. Number one is really for me so that I can go back and watch it, because I enjoy going back. It's almost like a video diary or something. I go back and look at the videos a couple of years ago, and it may jog my memory about something. I get a chuckle out of something. But then just as important to that, I do these for a couple of other reasons. Number one is to kind of hold myself accountable. Because it's easy to say, yeah, I'm going to be grateful for things, but I feel like if I actually do something on purpose and I speak it, then that really makes me, when you put pen to paper, you're actually doing something
to it, right?
But then the other thing too is that I hope I can encourage other people to think about that, because yes, my faith is really what grounds me. Without that, I would be a mess. Absolutely.
Wouldn't we all?
Oh,
and,
man.
And look, right now in our current world situation, if we would all go back and put God first again and realize that we're dependent on Him, all the rest of the stuff is noise. And it's temporary noise. When you and I pass, and hopefully we go straight to heaven, but when we pass, all the things we worry about daily here are going to pass away too. And the things we collect, the things we cherish, the things we hold close, money, all these things we talk about working for, they're not going to bury those with us.
Right.
And the people we would love, every one of us would love that, the world's going to remember me. Probably not. Right. And if it does, I would want it to be because of how grateful I was to others. That's what that gratitude post does for me. And what you said about it, I do the same thing. I'm embarrassed to admit that I go back and watch my own recordings. I go back and watch my own podcast, because when I'm talking to someone like I'm talking to you today, naturally, I don't prepare for talking to people, because in my opinion, the best stuff comes out when you just let the person be themselves and we unfold it together. And then I go back and I watch my stuff and I think, man, I can't even believe I was smart enough to say some of these things I heard myself say. Or I sometimes think, wait a minute, that's something I've got to start working on a little bit more because, listen, life and where you go and what you do. My dad loved going to the grocery store. I can't even describe how much he liked going to the grocery store daily. He ran a restaurant. He ran, there were reasons he was going, but when he passed away, 2 grocery stores in the little town I grew up in closed down to go to my dad's funeral that day. They closed their stores because every morning when he would go in there, and he would go in the morning and in the afternoon to each grocery store because it was part of running his normal business. Everybody in there knew him. Like the butcher in the back room, they had real relationships. Like a cashier walked up to me at my dad's funeral and said, "I don't think you know, when your dad came in and told me what a great job I was doing or smiled at me that day, how much easier it made me to carry the burden of." This young lady I was talking to had MS at the time, and she was just giving me information saying, I know you know your dad when he's at home, but you ought to see him when he's out around us. Because I was shocked at how many people came. I really was, because honestly, I hate funerals. I don't want to be there because it's really a celebration of life. When my dad passed, I know he went straight to heaven, so he wasn't there and he wasn't a part of it. And all the people hugging me, making me cry more. Right. I know they were there to comfort me, but they were there because they were grieving as well. And it was really interesting for me to watch. And I would hate, it's going to be 100 cars long procession trying to get to Andy Wood's funeral, because I see you and everybody I know sees you that way, this just kind guy. But the reason I brought up the grocery store, I happened to go to a local grocery store last night, and I was supposed to be buying supplies for my son who's getting his college room prepared, right? And it took me 2.5 hours to get out of there because I interacted with so many people while I was in there. And we were sitting in the fruit section, and those no-see-um fruit flies are real. Both of us were eaten alive standing in there, but we were interested to talk to each other. I'd seen her at a convention that I had just come back from, and it was another agent from another company, and she was asking me would I really help her and help her figure out things. And I'm that same guy you are. Sure. I couldn't wait to try and unload and help that person while we were there, not realizing my impatient son was waiting for me to bring these supplies, and I had to get there. But, along with your gratitude posts, that's a part of it. If I did one today, it would be, man, I am so grateful that Jenny Hensley pulled me aside last night to talk to me about, because it made me feel good, number one, that someone relied on the information and knew that I might be a source that might actually help her in her business, even though we're supposed to be competitors. We're not. I don't compete with anybody. Look, my best friends from high school, my best friends from college were the ones I played sports against, not the ones I played sports with. They were people on other teams. Carl Willis, a guy that pitched for UNC Wilmington that later played in the pros, was one of those guys. Just being around him, despite the fact he could throw 100 miles an hour back then when people couldn't. Right. And, he couldn't strike me out. I would always put it back in play. Might not get a hit, but I would get contact off of him. But he could pitch to 20 people and strike them all out. So there was a definite adversarial thing there. But you know what? So much mutual respect both ways. And really, if I knew we were going to compete in a game, I prepared better. I got ready better. I do that in my normal business too. If I have a doctor call me that for some reason I still kind of put people on shelves of, other people do. And then when we get there, I realize I've done all this preparation and they're just a real person, just like everybody. And I
Right.
think most people are,
Yeah.
right? Isn't
Yeah.
that what you find?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing you said a minute ago was about talking to the lady in the grocery store, and that's, one thing that my son, we chuckle about every now and again because he's like, Dad, you have to talk to everybody. And I'm like, sorta. And I say that tongue in cheek because, my goal is just simply just to speak to people, right? Just to acknowledge them because, in the day to day, I mean, not only does it bring me joy, I like just meeting people, but in the day to day, we get so busy, head down, going, going, going. And that's a good thing. But I think a lot of times that we can just kind of not realize that we have head down. We talk about it in our work environment a lot about keeping your head up, right? You have the phone, you have all these tools at your disposal, that's fine. But when you're walking around, keep your head up, make eye contact with people, be ready because not only do you not know who you're going to run into, you don't know what kind of opportunity you're going to get. And like in our world, that's why another reason why I love it because the duality of, it's personal and business. I just get to be me. I get to speak to people. I get to talk to people and get to know them. And you know what? It could turn into business. It could just be, hey, I'm thinking about doing something in my yard. What do you think? And that's the fun part of it because you get both.
And isn't it interesting though that people just sometimes just want acknowledgement?
For sure.
And if you acknowledge people, they turn on like candles and they can't wait to really communicate with you more. Like I'm not a guy that is I don't do well at parties. I'm not the guy that wants to even go to a party. But you know what? When I get there and somebody turns my screw gets me, then I get more and more comfortable. I grew up shy, even though all my kids would say, "Oh, he's never met a stranger." Mm-hmm. For me, sometimes it's a forced thing. Mm-hmm. Like I was uncomfortable that way, but I have to make myself more comfortable. And I find the more I do it, the more comfortable I am. Sometimes I'm more comfortable speaking to 500 people than I am one occasionally. Mm-hmm. But it's because when you're talking to that one, they expect you to have all the answers for everything. And I don't want to disappoint them, but I am very clear with people. When I don't know something and don't get it, I want to, hey, I don't, but I will figure it out, even if it's something I have no expertise in. A friend of mine had broken a couple of chairs at his house, and I was there, and he said, hey, any way you could fix that? So I bring home, my wife's like, yeah, you're going to fix chairs. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, then I pull out and start figuring out, how do you fix this chair? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And then when I realized they were broken so badly because the wood was damaged, I got to get an expert friend of mine to teach me how to do this. So next time I'll know how.
Right.
So I went to another friend to get that. That's the Andy Woods kind of mentality. Like you are a part of JAG. It's not that, oh, you're an insurance guy that we do business with. You're integral here. You have relationships with the people on our team as well as their clients, right?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about that. I mean, because I don't think that's a fake thing. I think it's real.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, certainly I think things like that, like you could fake it if you want to for a little while, but that's only going to last for a little while, right? And that's, back to kind of where we started as far as what kind of person you are. I mean, you can certainly, again, you can fake these things for a bit, but for me, I love it. And again, it's keep it very simple. And like I tell everybody on your team, here's my cell phone number. You call me whenever you need me, whether it's insurance related or not. I may not have the answer, but I might know somebody that does. Growing up and being from here and living here for quite a while now, that's the other just beneficial aspect of it is having a large network and just plugging right in. That's what I think about. When I do get the email and I have to kindly remind people, hey, send it to my other email, not my JAG email. And a lot of times they kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. But to me, that's just, you are part of the family, and I couldn't ask for more. I just, like I said, I just tell them, hey, you call me whenever you need me, weekends, nights, it doesn't matter. There's a comfort level that comes with that. I would hope for them, but also for me, again, because that scratches that itch of just, helping people and them being comfortable enough to call me and ask for something.
One of the things I'm amazed at is like I can't figure out where you get all the time that you have, because it seems like you're always doing
Wake up
something.
early.
So I don't think you sleep or rest a lot, obviously, and you're not in one place. But like Stacy graduated from Sanderson, but then I see you and your wife still. He's been gone. You still attending Sanderson High School sporting events,
I love
right?
it. Yep, football, basketball. It's not just because he was there, but now that he's gone, absolutely. I mean, we live in the neighborhood, so that's another good thing, right? It's date night for us. We can walk over there and check it out. But, being a big sports fan, right, there's nothing to me, I love college, I love pro, I love it all, but there's something kind of magical about high school sports, right? So, yeah, being plugged into the local community it's wonderful. I love it.
When you, and like, over your career with Stacy, how many pitches do you think you threw?
I have no idea. So being a left-handed pitcher in high school that couldn't break a window but just loved everything about it, and then having the opportunity to throw BP to my son and all the kids on his team, yeah, I mean, I still got some in me, right? But, it was funny because I drove by the park there right there in the neighborhood the other day. I drove by, actually. My wife and I walked by because we were on a walk. And I remember one day going out there to throw batting practice to him, and there was no L screen there. And that was when he was a little bit older and he could fire it back at me. And so I had 2 trash cans stacked on top of each other, and I'd throw it and hide behind it. But yeah, thousands and thousands of pitches.
Let me tell you, I can relate. I was pitching to Atkins when he first started growing, and now he's 6'4". But when he was first starting to really take off, I decided to pitch to him one day at Millbrook with no L screen, and he hit a line drive that hit me in the shin that I don't know if I'll ever get over the pain from it. It took so long to get up, first of all, but realizing when a guy's firing one at you about 105, it hurts.
It'll get your attention because you're throwing to them as they're kids and it's no big deal and everything's fine, and then that one gets you and you're like, oh God,
wait a minute, he's too old for it.
That's probably dangerous. That's probably dangerous. Yeah.
Now I got to protect myself, and it became life threatening. And truthfully, now when we're hitting in a cage, even hiding behind that thing, I'm like, I got to stand far enough behind that cage because that thing will fire back.
I've had them get close to me.
I busted lips and eyes and noses, right?
Yeah.
But there is nothing more fun, and it's not just doing it to our kids; it's to all of them.
For sure.
Even when I wasn't the coach on a team, if the coach on that team wasn't doing BP, or even if he was, if it would just help for me to be there, I didn't end up getting Tommy John surgery till I was an old man because I was just wearing them out through there.
For me, it was being lefty, right? Because most people are right-handed,
Never see a
right?
lefty.
So I was always the guy, hey, get the lefty in here. So that was my thing, and throwing to other people's kids, and you know what? You build those relationships with those kids too. I mean, I miss those days.
I don't want to take you all the way down rabbit holes, but let me turn you back around and ask for a minute. Tell me because none of us know. What does an insurance agent do? What is the life of an insurance agent? And also, what company do you work with? How do they get in touch with you? I mean, we'll obviously put it up on the back of the podcast, but tell them about the name of the company you're with and tell them the things you do.
Yeah, so it's High Street Insurance. We're right here in Raleigh. We're nationwide, really, in scope now. We're part of a local branch. But, to answer your first question about what does an insurance agent do, right? I wear so many hats, it's incredible, but that's also what makes it fun. And you never quite know where you're going until you kind of get there. Again, kind of what we talked about, when I get a call from somebody, when somebody on your team sends me somebody and they say, hey, I'm going to send you somebody, they're getting ready to buy a house, they just went under contract or whatever, it all just starts by me just introducing myself to them and just, congratulating them. And then again, back to where we started, asking them questions, just kind of getting a feel for who they are and what their needs are and things like that. Because, it's not one size fits all. It's not. There are certainly some things that are very common across every kind of transaction or whatnot. But they're all a little nuanced. They're all a little different. So it's really just meeting people where they are, their time frame. Do they need it tomorrow? Do they need it next week? Are they closing in 90 days? I don't know what it is. Do they have something in between? Are they going to rent before then they occupy? Or is it going to be vacant for a while before? Like all these kinds of things, there's a lot of layers to it. But having said that, I help people with all kinds of things. Again, going back to, is it a manufactured home? Is it a 2.5 and up home? Is it a town home? Is it rental property? Whatever it may be, we can do anything really.
Yeah. So to that end, and none of us need to become insurance agents, but like,
Right.
What's a clue report?
Yeah, clue report. So you have to remember that, like I get this all the time when people call me and they'll say, hey, I got a proposal from somebody else, and we'll get to talking and I'll say, well, make sure that they ran all the reports, right? The clue and the MBR, the clue when you're talking about property, it's, hey, have there been any claims? And what were they, and how much did they pay out, and all these kinds of things. That's a huge part of how they arrive at a premium, and it's also very important to look at that and talk through that with the client, because some of those things aren't accurate from time to time. They can get some erroneous information on there, so it's very important to get
kind of
that
a risk management tool.
Absolutely, risk management.
So NVR.
Yep.
Tell me
Yeah.
what.
So on the auto side of things, the NVR is: have you had any speeding tickets? Have you had any? Well, the NVR is speeding tickets and accidents and things like that. Again, that's one of the huge rating factors of how they get my price, because, again, I get people that call and they'll say, hey, I got a rate from XYZ. What do you think about it? And, my first thought all the time is, well, it just kind of depends. Let's look at it, right? Because, again, it may not be accurate, but the proposal you have in your hand, they may not have run the reports. Because in the insurance world, you have to, a lot of these companies, you have to pay for those. And so understandably so, people aren't just going to run those reports every time. But like from my perspective, at the end of the day, you need to have an accurate price. I mean, I need to know how much the apple is before I get to the register up front. I don't need the price to change. So that's a very important aspect of everything. Yeah.
Is combining policies, like when I was young, and, and even though I'm supposed to be this real estate expert, I'm not an insurance expert. Is, if I've got my homeowners with you and I've got my auto with you and I've got my life and whatever, all the different aspects, do those things play with each other at all?
They do. And that's, a very common question or a very common thought process I get is, hey, I want to bundle everything. And I always just say, fantastic, we're going to go that route first. We're going to look at it. But so from my perspective so I'm an independent agent and I have a lot of different carriers that I work with. And so I will acknowledge that. Absolutely great thought. But that may not be the best option for you now. That might be the best option later on down the road. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at it. Like I tell everybody, I'm going to look at it with a fresh set of eyes, right? Because again, it depends on the risk and the location and the size and your desires and all these other things. And if we can bundle it together to get you some savings, then we're going to do that. Because at the end of the day, it's about value. I want to get you the best value for your insurance dollar, period, right? And so again, in some cases, putting it all together may make sense. In some cases, like for me personally, now all my stuff is bundled, but for years, I had my home over here, my auto over here, and there was a couple of reasons behind that. Again, just that was what was best for me. So, it all depends.
Well, a question along those lines, and just thinking through that myself when I'm hearing that, like if someone's got problems on their driving record, for example, would be one of those things why you wouldn't want to bundle that one, because it would probably impact the other parts of their lives, right?
Maybe, yeah. And that's, again, that's where like we touched on that art and science, having done it as long as I have now, that's why I ask a lot of questions up front, because I'm just absorbing that information, and then that's going to allow me to do a better job right out of the gate, right? We'll figure it out along the way, but the more information I have, the better I can do. And then when I combine that with what your desires are and what your needs are, because I see it a lot of time in the business, and it's very common. We're all human. We want to go as fast as we can. We want to get as much done. I mean, I'm a high volume guy. I want to go and get it, right? But I also have to remember, it's about value, and it's about setting them up for, putting them in the best possible position, and also thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead, right? Because somebody might do a fantastic job and get you set up, but if they're not thinking, where are you going 3 and 4 years down the road? Do you have a son or a daughter that's getting ready to get their license? Is this going to be a rental property in time, right? You might live there for a little while, but then you might know that you're going to rent it out. Okay, so maybe we go a little bit different direction. There's all kinds of different things that play into how can we not only do the best job for you now, but then set you up for success later down the road too. And just not be short-term thinking. Let's be long-term thinking.
One of the things I just happen to know because we're friends is you're not just an insurance that you've got this entrepreneurial spirit within you, right? Like you can't help but want to help with all different kinds of things. Like, where does that come from? Was that from your parents? Or where did it come from?
So I think really it came from, so for me, about 14 years now, I made some lifestyle changes, right? Which freed up a lot of my time, which is fantastic, best decision I ever made. The entrepreneurial thing didn't come from my parents that I know of. For me, it's like this bug that I've acquired over the years about wanting to learn about business. And because I think, honestly, that also comes from a position of now I can better help people. But really, it's about business and what we can do to kind of, it's this strange thing, right? It's like, if I knew then what I knew now, turf grass, fantastic. But I definitely would have gone into business because I also think about like business ownership. Business ownership now I feel like is a lot easier than it used to be in a sense, right? Because you have a lot of tools with the internet and all the other things. But I just, from now, hopefully, good Lord willing, I got another 20, 25, 30 years of working ahead of me. I love the idea of owning my own business and doing all these other things. It just, honestly, too, it keeps me busy.
Let me ask you this. So, because you just hit on it right then. I can't find a retirement plan in the Bible. When I look at the Bible, I look at Abraham. God gave him the task of, at 99 years old, he's got to have a child and birth a nation at 99. So when that's the precursors God's put in front of us, why is it that so many of our friends and so many other people we know are like living to be able to retire? What does that part of your life look like?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think about it much either. I mean, for me, it's about really trying to figure out what it is that I enjoy doing. I want to get up every day and, Lord willing, have the capability to go do something that I enjoy doing. Now, whether that's, being an insurance, professional, whether that's owning another business, whether that's volunteering at church, whatever it may be, retirement to me is a bit of this nebulous thing. Because I feel like even if I woke up this morning and you put enough money in front of me that I didn't have to work, I'd still go do something. I know
idle hands create trouble.
For sure.
And in my life, I've had idle hands from now and different parts of my life when I wasn't being what I wanted to be. The more focused, the more into things I am, and the more stuff I have going on and concentrate on, the better I feel like I'm doing. But, I really, I have people all the time say, oh, you've made all this money, you could do all this. I don't think like that. Money has nothing to do with the joy I receive from coming to work every day. The joy I receive from being able to help another person, even if it's not somebody that could translate to me making money. It's about if I can do one thing to make somebody else's life easier today, then man, I feel like I did something good that day. And when I go home and start thinking about my gratitude, then I think, man, that was one of those times I felt, man, I'm glad I really got to do that. And it may not be anything to do with what I do, because my dad was this guy that walked around making other people around him feel better. And I've always wanted to be that same way. And I try to be. I don't know if I'll ever be as successful at it as he was, but it's a goal of mine to make people feel more secure. It's a goal of mine to make people be happy and like themselves more and realize their value. Like, I think so many people undervalue themselves, and I know I'm guilty of it. I know, look, the closer I get to God, the more I realize what God's plan is, the more it makes me realize how much growth I've got to do. Like, I feel like, people say, oh, you've done this, you've done that, you've done. I just feel like I'm getting started. I really just feel like at this point of my life that I'm understanding that God's going to put these people in my life He wants in my life. Like me and Andy Wood standing behind a back screen at baseball games where we met the first time. And to know that, I knew right that second when we started talking, even though we didn't like, hey, I'm going to go on a date with him next week and I got to be around him this next second. I knew that's somebody that's going to be in my life. Yeah. And I could feel it. And you know what? I believe God's been doing that to me my whole life. I didn't listen all the time. Right. That's like now that I'm listening more and I want to keep listening more, these divine appointments that God sets up for us. And I call them that because I'm getting more and more confident talking, I'm certainly not a Bible scholar. Definitely don't know enough to be dangerous. But I know all I got to do is point them into one direction and say, listen, there is one way, and it's through Jesus Christ, that everything good that could happen in your life, I don't care how you think things are, if you don't realize this is that one path, your life's going to be tough. You are going to have, I'm not saying you won't have challenges even with him, but when my child went blind, I'll just be honest. I'm a problem fixer. When I couldn't fix something for the people I love the most, it made me feel inadequate, right? But then I turn back and I get to experience my son witnessing to crowds of people the peace and enjoyment that God gives him in the middle of the darkest day. And then I think to myself, why do I ever worry about anything? Why do I carry these burdens when God's going to take care of it? And it was funny. This girl I saw in the grocery store last night has worked in our market for about 11 years, I think. I never personally met her till I was in Anaheim, California.
Had to go all the way to California.
At a convention to, like, other people in my team had told me what a kind person this person was, and that, she would be a great fit for our team. I'd heard all those things. I'm not trying to recruit this person in any way, because I don't recruit people. They come here and we just,
for sure, attraction.
It's an attraction that our company has. But I go out there and I met her for a couple of seconds. Do you think it's a mistake that 4 nights after I'm back from California, I run into that person in the grocery store in a vegetable line, getting eaten alive?
Right.
There's some reason,
no coincidence,
God wants the two of us near and to hear things. And, I'm sitting there, I wonder what it is God wants me to help her with. That's the first thought I have. That's who my friend Andy Wood is. Yeah. That's what I think God puts these people and lines them up in your life. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that, because watching you be a great dad to your child helped me to be better with mine. And watching everything about how grateful you are in your life. When I watch how you talk about your wife, when I watch how, when NC State won and you go to the bell tower and watch what's going on, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, Andy Wood's always in the middle of. Andy Wood's always a guy that's, not content with sitting at home.
That's for sure. I mean, there's definitely something to that as far as, the wanting to be in the middle of stuff. That's a let's go see it and do it and experience it thing. Back to something you were mentioning a minute ago about your faith and about God and whatever. I feel like The same thing has happened to me in my life, and my faith and my walk is like, it's like when you buy that car or you're looking for that car and now you see those cars everywhere, right? That's the same thing to me, or very similar. It's like once your eyes are open to something, now you start to see it everywhere. And then for me, one of my favorite things about my faith and about thinking about God and whatnot is, think of him as a good father, right? And so that to me, it's like I try to keep things very simple, right? When I think about that, it's like, okay, well, that's what a good father would want. What do I want from my son? I want X, Y, and Z and all these other good things. And then, once you just start to lean into that, I think it's definitely a process. There are people that I'm sure get it from birth, and fantastic, good for them. But for most of it, we have to learn these things through life. And then, once you start to understand how beneficial it is to, it's beneficial to you and the other person. It's beneficial for me and the other person if I just stop and listen to them a little bit. You know what? I might learn something. I might get a new friend. I might, get some business. I might, whatever it may be. But, it's once I've experienced that, and now I can say, okay, I need to stop and talk to that person, right? And then I really think there are no coincidences. There aren't. There are not at all. And I just have to, when I'm presented with that, go, like you said, all right, God, what am I supposed to learn out of this? What am I supposed to say? And then in that same moment, it's great because I just go, you know what? I just take my hands off the wheel and just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I have seen it with my own eyes that he just lines things up. And that's when we're standing there behind the backstop, maybe arguing balls and strikes, maybe not. I don't know.
We might have been doing a little bit of that.
There is that just sense you get when you're around somebody that you're like, I feel like I've known you all my life, even though I haven't known you all my life. We were friends. That's the thing.
We went from 0 to 80 immediately because we connected. And it was like, I remember coming home from that first game and telling my wife when I got home, I really like this Andy Wood guy. Like, at least this year it'll be fun on this team because there's another parent that I think really wants the best for everybody on that team, because sometimes we get on these teams and I know that dad wants the best for his child, but he wants everybody else to fail so his child exceeds. Life. And I was never that guy. I was always like, man, I became a fan of other kids on every team my kids ever played on. And there was always that one child that for some reason I felt like God needed me in their life, and I've got to figure out how do I go connect with that person because I feel drawn to them. I feel like if I don't go help them, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, you're supposed to be doing it. One of my favorite things now is that a lot of these kids that we played, young men and young women that we were in, proximity to, now I'm watching their college careers.
Yes.
One in particular that I really hope to run into that's a quarterback on a big time team that I hope I get to see play ball here soon. So that's, I love that just as much as anything else, right? Watching them
Same for me. There's a kid right now that's playing big time football that went to Gibbons with my son as a quarterback.
It's probably the same one we're talking about.
Same guy,
I'm pretty sure we are.
And he was a pitcher too.
Yes.
And let me tell you what, he doesn't need any. I'm hoping he gets to playing time. He was a starter last year on a weaker squad, but it's still a D1 school.
Yeah.
And wasn't expected to even play, but the guy ahead of him got hurt. He became the player of the year in that conference. And then the big time money came from
the phone calls start coming.
A big time football program.
Yeah.
And when I read online, even though he's second string right now, he is second string at one of the best.
You know as well as I do.
He is one play away from playing
twisted ankle,
every down.
Step off a curve. You never know, right? We don't want that to happen,
or one practice away from those coaches seeing, wait a minute.
Right.
Did we pick the right leader in this position?
Absolutely.
And that's the joy of sports, because when that young man, he didn't start his senior season at Gibbons because he had an injury. This kid came in who could run, and they changed the style of the offense and everything else. He still played well enough junior year and the portions of senior year when he wasn't injured that a D1 school came
That good.
calling because he's that Tom Brady size and the perfect profile for a quarterback, really, and
I know. Yeah.
has a gun. But, like that kind of stuff that we can appreciate. And it's funny, we never talked about this kid together.
I know exactly. Yeah.
But we know exactly who he is. We both connect to the same thing. And that's about that part where you said it's not an accident, the people who come in your lives, what their interests are and other things. But at the same time, all the divine appointments I recognize now only make me realize how many times did God ask me to be there before that I didn't answer. Like my biggest fear in life is I get to heaven and God say, wait a minute, I lined up all these divine appointments for you and you never went to them. Let's see, I'm not sure I remember your name.
Right.
Would that be a bad day?
Right.
That would be that day you don't want to go back on, right?
Yeah. Now that your eyes have been opened and you've been oriented that way, right? Yeah. Luckily for me, I don't have a very good memory, right? So I can't really go back in detail and go, I remember that day. But now it's more so just, I feel like, oh gosh, I get convicted, right? When I go somewhere, I'll do this from time to time. I'll go somewhere and I'll do something and I'll turn around and I'll take 2 steps and I'll go back. And this has just happened to me last year. And I said, you know what? I need to go find that person and talk to him. And I did. And now there's a cool little relationship there. And that to me is like, you know what? Get over yourself. Just get over yourself. It doesn't matter if you said the wrong thing or you did whatever, go try to fix it. Go try to talk to him. Go try to whatever. Because at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Just go for it.
The other side of that is you just hit it right then. You have to forgive yourself. All the stuff I didn't do right in the beginning of my life, even now, the things I don't do right every day right now, I have to say, you know what? I'm forgiving myself next. I've always had and been able, like, it's why I loved baseball. If I struck out,
next play.
I didn't keep that when I went to the plate other than I'm going to get a hit the next time I go up there. Like in my high school career, I almost never struck out. Like I went a whole season one year and didn't strike out. The following year, the one time I struck out was to the worst pitcher that I'd ever faced.
That's the way it goes.
Because I was trying to hit a home run instead of just put the ball in play. And it was a day I'd already had 3 doubles. I mean, it was like, I knew I was going to be in the newspaper the next day, and I'm feeling it. And then this guy comes in and pitches who couldn't break an egg. And I know, and I'm swinging so hard, I'm like about to screw myself in the ground.
Of course.
And you just have to say next. Well, that's the way life is. Life is just like sports. When you make a mistake, next. I get a chance again. Until you die, and that's why I don't think I'll ever retire.
Right.
I'm going to make a mistake today that I hope I get to overcome tomorrow.
What I learned from it, yeah.
And the forgiveness from that. Like, carrying grudges is a terrible thing. Like, the weight of carrying that on yourself, that's why people want to be around you. You don't carry that. Someone could do something horrible to you today, and the next day you would be as kind to them as you were the day before because you forgot about it.
I mean, I'm human, and I'll be mad for a second, but then I just have to let it go. And that's just life experience, right? That's like, in my business, every now and again, just like in your business, every now and again you're doing something and you've spent a lot of time on it and it just evaporates for no fault of your own. And you can either be mad at it and you can carry that for a while, or, again, just thank goodness for my background in sports and my love of sports and everything else. I've always been kind of blessed with it's like a quarterback, right? Next play, and just let it go. There's nothing I can do about it anyhow, right? But that's also, like we were talking about, I have gotten to that point in life because I'd struggled with that earlier on where I would carry that for a while and then finally I'm like, why am I doing this to myself, right? And now the beautiful thing is now I get to give that to other people. I've got other agents and other people that are coming up behind me that I get to have these conversations with. And my favorite part is, it's not any kind of, genius wisdom or anything. It's literally just sharing what's happened in my life. But then you get to sprinkle in, maybe some other things. But I'm going to pass that down, and that's a wonderful part about where I am, is I get to now look back behind me and see who's coming behind me.
So the viewers that watch this podcast today, what they're going to pick up on is all of them are going to want to call you immediately, because they're going to be like, wait a minute, if I don't have Andy Wood's phone number, because I need a guy like him. I need a guy like him in my life. That next mentality, if I was going to describe it, I would say, Andy says he doesn't have a great memory. That's not true. He remembers everything, but he doesn't hold himself to those things. He's learned to forgive Andy, because if we don't learn to forgive ourselves, then boy, we'll just be tortured. And I'm learning to, and every day I hope I learn more to how to forgive myself, because as the worst part is, once you really are convicted and you believe in Christ and you know He's your Savior, the fact that you still sin, the fact that there's still, and you can't stop it. No matter how much we want, we are such broken people. I can't imagine how a perfect God gets to look at us and isn't so disappointed every day. Even when we're trying to be good, we do something bad. Like you were talking about those balls and strikes. We're there for the right purpose. But this umpire that's not a professional.
He's flawed too, though. He's flawed.
Right.
Maybe he couldn't see, maybe things weren't right.
That's right. Yeah. All that exists. But you know what? I know there have been a few times, and as my kids really started progressing and getting better, I became smaller and smaller and smaller.
Back out.
And I get to witness it. Same with the agents that work for me. I don't want, like when I started, I wanted Jim Allen to be, Jim Allen doesn't mean anything anymore. Like everything's about JAG and about how people on our team get to be relevant and they get to be seen. And I think the more people give you acknowledgement or think you're something, once you get to a certain point in your life, you realize, no, I put my pants on like you put yours on. When we start overvaluing people, they don't want to be treated that way either. They just want to be real, normal kids. And look, and I hate to come back to this, but having a child now that was always excelling at everything that now isn't able to see, and that person going from wanting to overachieve all the time to just wanting to be normal. Whatever normal is a real good lesson, because we're all going to get on highs. We're all going to get up here. We hope we don't go down here, but we're going to go down there too.
Every now and again.
What I've tried to learn how to do in my life is stay right here in this center part. And the more I stay right here, the better I do things. When I get up here, I'm too good. Nobody can get up here in the clouds. Or when I get down here, you can't bring me out of the depths.
Right.
I got to learn to stay here. And if I could do one thing, if I could coach everybody to just follow you around and watch how you react to situations, that's how I would like for everybody I'm in contact with to act. It really is. And I say that to you, and I say it to you guys. Look, I'm going to let Andy, real quick, give them your phone number. We'll put it up on the screen later, and tell them your email address, because I don't want anybody here that's going to hear this not to be calling you, whether they call JAG first or not. I want them to call you.
Right. Okay. So, yep. So the two ways you can get in touch with me, very simply. So you can call me or you can text me. So my cell number is 919-798-8512. That's 919-798-8512. My email address is Andy, A-N-D-Y, .wood at, and then it's all spelled out, High Street, ins.com. So andy.wood at highstreetins.com, and just let it rip. It's like I used to tell my guys on the golf course all the time. They would say, well, I don't want to bother you. I don't want this. I say, look, just send me an email, send me a text. If you think you're going to forget about it, just send it to me. But yeah, I'm accessible. Again, it all goes back to just Making it easy. Make it easy.
let me
Make it easy.
promise
Make it
you,
easy. Absolutely.
This was an absolute pleasure. And when I get to do something like this, guys, this made my week.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed as much as we did.
Thank you very much.